Hello everybody and welcome to this video! What a strange thing to see me here with this ranking thing in front of me. What? What is this? Penta hybrid on tiermaker.com/create/roguelites-235917? What craziness has this man brought upon us? Here's the thing. I'm doing a tier ranking thingy that I made. I edited. I didn't make it. I edited it because the one that I loaded up was pretty bad. So these are like the new hotness, right? These tier rankers are kind of the new hotness, and I didn't really do them like a year ago. I started doing these tier maker things a while back just on my own, just to like honestly help me with some of my top 10s I was writing. This is a great medium to like dig into your own psyche a little bit, but I never did them on a channel or on stream because I thought no one would be interested, and all of a sudden they blew up out of nowhere and everybody's doing them. You got people like King of the Fourth Quarter doing shit on basketball. You got like Northern Lion doing stuff on indie games. You got people doing stuff about beers. Like there's a guy, I watched a tier maker on beers, like on Pilsners, and it was like, apparently everybody watches this stuff, so I'm gonna do one. We're gonna test the waters. We'll see what you guys think about Penta Hybrid ranks some stuff. It's an easy way to do a top tier, top 10 countdown list without having to do like 12 hours of editing and capturing footage. So we're just gonna go over roguelites/roguelikes of recent memory. I have played every game on this list to some extent, some more than others, obviously. And we're going to go over what they rank as. And we're going to talk about each game. We're going to talk about them, where they rank, why they rank, and so on. So let's just begin. I was going to say it's in alphabetical order, but it's absolutely not. I don't know. Well, let's just jump into it. What do you guys think? Let's just jump into it real quick with Dead Cells. I'm going to go over my history with the game, how much time I played it, and then obviously why it's ranked where it is. You can see our ranks are God tier, great, above average, below average, D for disappointment, and You Died. You Died is where the games go that no one wants to go. The games that I've immediately forgotten about until I saw the images here. D for disappointment is for games that aren't necessarily bad, but disappointed me. Below average are games that just quite didn't make the mark, like a 4 or 5 out of 10, that were good, but didn't have quite enough to put themselves over the limit. Above average are games that exceeded expectations, but weren't nothing great. Great is obviously a game that is great, but not quite God tier, and God tier are for games that are just absolutely brilliant. Listening to some Smooth McGroove remixed by Game Chops. You can check out the album download in the description below if you like the tunes that are going on during this video. Anyway, let's start with Dead Cells. Dead Cells is an easy one for me. It goes into the D for disappointment. There's a long story behind it. I've talked about it numerous times, but basically the reason why it's in D for disappointment, it isn't necessarily, again, because it's a bad game. It's actually quite a good game. It has some of the best combat in a roguelike and action game we've seen in recent memory. However, it's in a D for disappointment because when I first got reached out to by the devs, and I wasn't even the devs, it was actually the publisher for the game, in their slew of streamer push that they were trying to do. They were trying to get streamers to play the game, and they reached out to a bunch of us, and the marketing for the game marketed it as something that it wasn't. And that rubbed me the wrong way, because when I first got my hands on it, it was not at all what I was expecting. And then when I reached out to them and said, hey, this is a little bit out of what you guys said, the email I got back was, oh, it'll be fixed in the updates and blah, blah, blah in the full edition. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, I'm not saying I was lied to about what the game was, but the marketing around it was quite fishy. That's all I'm saying. It wasn't at all what it should have been. It isn't at all what it probably could have been. And all that really holds the game together is the combat. Everything else in the game is kind of subpar to me. Even the art style is kind of a little bit meh. Even if I wasn't disappointed in it and I enjoyed the game a little bit, it'd probably still land in below average. I think Dead Cells is kind of like a 4 or 5 out of 10. Outside of the combat, it is, yeah, it's a bit disappointing to me. But moving on to a much happier game is Dicey Dungeons. Now, Dicey Dungeons is a weird game because I would love to play this game more, but no one watched it on YouTube. I attempted to do a YouTube series on it, and it wasn't popping off, as the kids say nowadays. But Dicey Dungeons is a good game. Terry Cavanaugh, one of my favorite devs in the indie scene. Magical game. Magical game. It definitely goes into the great tier. just off of the fact that it's not quite to God tier, because I do not like some of the episode ideas, primarily episodes 3 and 4 on the characters. I got pretty sick of the game after trying those out, and the first and second episodes aren't varied enough, in my opinion, to do any of the roguelite streaking that you would normally do, like the win streaks and like robot streaks. I had the idea to do that, but it just doesn't have the longevity. It doesn't breathe any new life into the game after you do those. Maybe with the new mods that they have for it, there'll be some fun stuff to it. But for me, it barely is right outside of God tier. The Dicey Dungeons is an amazing game, and everybody here should play it if you haven't already. It's an absolute bomb of a game this year. Thoroughly impressed with that game. I just unfortunately did not do very well on my stream, and the latter half of the game was a bit of a bum for me. But solidly in the great tier. What an amazing game. What an absolutely amazing game. This is going to be fun. Holy crap. Some of these are going to be real dingers. Into the Breach. Into the Breach. I ranked a bunch of indie games on my stream the other night. I ranked like 130 games. There's a list on this site with like 130 indie games. Not just roguelites and roguelikes. Like 130 indie games, and I ranked them all, every 130 of them, and had a good time doing it. And on that, Into the Breach was in my, like, B, C tier, because it's so good. But as a roguelite, I think the struggle that Into the Breach has as a roguelite is that its replayability is kind of hampered by its difficulty, because it's kind of easy once you figure out the mechanics. Because it is a tactics game, but it doesn't evolve as a tactics game, you know what I mean? Like, Into the Breach has that XCOM, you know, Civ-type combat where you're planning out your actions ahead of time and you're trying to make sure you do the right moves at the right times. But it's super easy after you understand the teams that you have to work with and the units you're going up against and the maps, the submissions. It becomes a little too easy, and as a roguelite, I tend to turn away from roguelites when they get a little too easy. By Isaac. So Into the Breach might just land in the above average. If it was just a tactics game, it's definitely in the great tier, but because of its replayability getting hampered by difficulty, once you understand the game a bit more, which I guess is kind of just the gameplay loop, so maybe it is in the great tier. But do I put Into the Breach next to Dicey Dungeons? I don't think so. I think it goes in above average. I think it has to land in above average. We might rework this at the end of it once we get all the games on there. We'll do some rearranging possibly. Also, just a note, if you're not familiar with these tier makers, the way I do it is the furthest left in the row, it goes worst to left, worst to best in the row. So if Into the Breach was up here, Dicey is still better than Into the Breach, even though they're in the same category. That's kind of how that works. Children of Morta. As a roguelite, has to go in below average. It's a very good game. I played about 3-4 hours of it in my own time to see if it was something that I wanted to play on stream or YouTube. Unfortunately, the game ends. The game has a freaking ending. What kind of roguelite has an ending? You're a roguelite. You're supposed to be at least have a loop, like Nuclear Throne, have an ability to New Game Plus, even, like, just anything. If it's got that Diablo-esque combat. It's such a cool idea for a game that just fell short of the line because it's a little too story-heavy for a game that's supposed to be replayable. I don't want to I mean, that's a bad example. I don't want to... Let me use this as an example. I don't want to replay Diablo 2 over and over and over again and still read all the dialogue and still I don't want to do that. No one wants to do that. You just want to play the game. Children of Morta should have a roguelite mode where there's no story. It's just the combat. Okay, this is going to be... I can't in right mind put Hades in below average for being early access because of how good it is. And there might be some people here saying, why aren't you playing Hades on stream? Why aren't you playing Hades on YouTube? And the reason is I've only played a couple hours in my own time. And I think I'm going to wait for it to get another major update before I do anything further with it. It's kind of been uninstalled already. However, it's got to be an above average. The combat's good. It's Super Giant Games. Bastion's one of my favorite games of all time. Transistor's amazing. Pyre is great. And they did transition to the early access roguelite thing quite well, honestly. It's very well polished. Combat is lovely. It's just... I hate the idea of an early access roguelite, because that basically implies, hey, there's not a lot of content in me right now, but just wait. You still have to pay for me, but just wait. But Hades already has good content. It has good replayability. It has good combat. It damn near doesn't need to be in early access anymore. Really, they could release it and then just do DLC, and everybody would probably be fine who's played it. So it's going to be any above average. I'm comfortable with that. Darkest Dungeon. This is a very tough one for me, because Darkest Dungeon is definitely the best one that we've placed so far. Narration, art style, music. Wayne June is phenomenal. The aesthetic of the game, the combat of the game, the replayability of the game, all the little micromanagement things around in the game, the city management, town management, the unit management, everything in Darkest Dungeon nails it perfectly. Except for the end game. We go back to Into the Breach a little bit. The end game of Darkest Dungeon was very bland. Up until the last fight, and the fights leading up to the last fight, Darkest Dungeon is very bland for like the last fifth of the game. You kind of plateau at difficulty. Because there's a massive spike around level 3 and 4. There's a massive spike. Like, from 3 to 4, you don't really know how much of a spike that is. But from 3 to 4, it is massive. But then 4 to 5 to 6 is kind of just... It's not... There's... I can't really put it in God tier if the end of your game is dissatisfying. It's going to be the top of the great list for now. Very much so. And that may change. I may bump it up at a later time, once we get some other stuff up here. Because I don't want to bloat the great tier just because I'm afraid to put them in God tier. Something... Well, a few of these are going to go in God tier quite easily, but... Risk of Rain, above average. I love the game. I love the multiplayer. I just did not enjoy the gameplay loop. I gotta be honest. Unless you're playing with other people, Risk of Rain is a subpar game to me. It is a subpar game. If you're playing multiplayer, it's an above average game. You have a good time. You play for a few hours. You laugh. You have some fun. You kill your friends. Without multiplayer, it's a below average, maybe even disappointing. I wouldn't quite put it in disappointing, but below average for sure without multiplayer. But as a roguelite, it's a fantastic game, but you really need to play with other people to make the game pop. Which is where Risk of Rain actually gets a 1-up on it. And I'm going to put Risk of Rain in great, Risk of Rain 2 in great, hesitantly. Hesitantly because of early access. And I know I should not put an early access title in the great category. I know what I'm doing is wrong. I'm slapping myself on the wrist. You don't have to do it for me. But I cannot put Risk of Rain and Risk of Rain 2 next to each other because everything I didn't like about Risk of Rain 1 was fixed in Risk of Rain 2. The gameplay loop is better. The scaling is better. You can get ridiculously overpowered by yourself without having to just get annihilated by a magma worm on the third loop. Like, it has that solo style play while also being fun in multiplayer. Also, the persistent unlocks are just significantly better in Risk of Rain 2, even in its current state, I would say. I thought the transition to 3D, I was so skeptical leading up to Risk of Rain 2's release. Because of the transition to 3D, the art style didn't quite mesh with me, but then I started playing it, and there was minor bugs, obviously. There were some bugs. Terrain bugs were pretty bad. You couldn't even see the exit on some of the maps. But it's just really good, and I can't wait to play it when a few more updates come out. I know that the Acrid update just came out, and also the Loader update came out. I haven't played since either of those updates came out. Nor have I played since the plant guy. There's been 3 new characters since I played last. That's how many updates I've missed. But I don't want to play it until probably full release. Probably full release. Legend of Bumbo. This one's going to be painful. This one's actually going to be painful because I might have been the one person in the Unusual crew defending this game up until release. I might have been the only person outside of maybe Alexa that was defending this game up to release. It's Ed, Ed, you know Ed's gonna do the thing, but then you gotta think back that Ed also made Afterbirth Plus and it was garbage. It's a disappointment. I'm not gonna put it in You Died because there's potential for it to be better, but it is absolutely a disappointment. The content is not there. It's not fun as a loop. The characters are unbalanced and unfun. The rooms are unbalanced and unfun. The spike from level 2 to level 3 is absolutely atrocious. Bosses on the first floor are basically one-shottable with any competency in a match 4. It is so horribly undercooked that it's just a disappointing mess of what could be great in a year from now. There is a lot of updates coming out for it. He even has a DLC plan for it. I don't think you should focus on DLC right now, Ed. I think you should fix the game you made and then make DLC, because most of your fan base isn't going to buy paid DLC for a game that is ass right now. And that's not a poop pun. Anyway, D for disappointment. Bumbo, I want you to be better. You deserve to be better, but right now you are not very good. Wizard of Legend is definitely above average. Here's the thing, is Wizard of Legend. Wizard of Legend is really good, but it doesn't grab me. You know what I mean? You ever have a game that you just understand is phenomenal? Okay, let me take that word back, because Wizard of Legend is definitely not phenomenal. Wizard of Legend is definitely not phenomenal. It's a great game. Or it's a good game. If it was a great game, it would be in great, Penta. It's a good game. Alright, it's a good game, but it just doesn't get me, you know? It doesn't grab me. The gameplay is just, it's a little bit tired. I think that's the word I should use here, but it might not be the word I want to use. It's a little tired. The gameplay just feels, it doesn't make me feel like I'm playing an action game. I feel like I'm just dodging and hitting combos of buttons. It feels like I'm playing a fighting game without any risk. It's an interesting game for sure, and there's been a bunch of updates since I last played it, so it might jump up a tier if I played it with that in mind, but right now it's going to sit in the above average. Stramium Immortale, and also Skelly Celeste is on here. Good to see that. Good to see that one on here too. Two games that I'm sure a lot of you don't even know what they are, but I played the hell out of them because I love the dev and I love all the games he makes. Stramium Immortale I played on launch day. The dev sent me a copy of the game, and he was like, dude, I see you play a lot of roguelites, I see you play a lot of Isaac, pretty much the prototype of any email I get. Hey, Penta Hybrid, I see you play a lot of Isaac. Would you like to play my 2D Doom-like third-person action platformer roguelite? Anyway, Stramium Immortale just completely blew expectations out of the water for me. I went in very, very hesitant on both the name, the art style, and the mechanics that I was seeing, but it is an exceptionally good game. For what it is, Stramium Immortale is highly underrated. Highly underrated. What a great game. Balls to the wall difficult, but it is such a fun, unique, trippy acid trip of a roguelite, and I need you guys to at least give it a try. What a good game. And I'm really glad that I played it because it got me to play Skelly Celeste, which is below Stramium. Skelly Celeste is really... Actually, Skelly Celeste is really good. Skelly Celeste might actually be, like, right above Risk of Rain. And Stramium might be above Risk of Rain 2. Hades is going to probably rock the above average here, but... And by Hades, I mean Into the Breach. And Bumbo might actually be more disappointing than Dead Cells, and that takes a lot of guff for me to say. People who know about my Dead Cells drama, that takes a lot to say, because Bumbo is Ed, man. But Skelly, Stramium, same dev, wonderful games. Skelly was like a top-down, kind of isometric roguelite, whereas Stramium was a side scroller, where you had like a jetpack and stuff. It was really cool, but I think Stramium just barely ekes out Skelly as far as his developments go. Nova Drift. I'm sorry, but Nova Drift is going to be in the below average. That's where I meant to put it. It is a good game that I have been bothered to play by my stream community for about 2.5 years, and I finally played it, for about 5 minutes, and it's just boring. I'm sorry to the devs, I really am, but your game is kind of boring. It just didn't have any oomph. It didn't have any oomph. It didn't have a reason for me to want to pick the controller back up again. Oh, get back down there. Which, all of the games above it, I definitely can go back and play. I can even play Children of Morta again. Like, I could go back to Risk of Rain, I could go back to Wizard of Legend, I could go back to Hades, I could go back to Risk of Rain 2. I don't want to go back to Nova Drift. And I know that, like, 5 to 10 minutes is a small sample size, but after being bothered by people for 2 years to play it, it didn't live up to any of the hype. Maybe they were just doing it to troll me, but Nova Drift is exciting, but it ain't for me, man. Downwell. That's where it gets really weird, because I love the hell out of Downwell. I love Downwell so much. Downwell is one of my favorite games to just play on my phone. It's one of my favorite games to play on the shitter. It's one of my favorite games to play in travel, in transit. That and Into the Breach, honestly. Into the Breach is on my Switch, and I play that all the time on my Switch. Oh, Downwell. You're not as good. I mean, you're not into the great category, but I think you might be right above Hades in the above average category. Downwell does exactly what it wants to do. It's such a fun game that does exactly what it needs to do. Notice we haven't had a God tier game yet. Downwell is so good, and it's probably right next to Into the Breach as a tie. You do exactly what the game tells you to do. You jump down a well with your gun boots. You go to stores. I got so many people to play this damn game because a lot of people didn't know what it was. And then I just walked around. I was like, yo, you talk about Isaac and stuff all the time, but have you played Downwell? And then they played Downwell. And I think I even got Alexa to play it once. I got Jonas to play it once. Downwell's great. Go play Downwell. I think it's like $1 on Apple and Google Play. Go play Downwell. It's a fantastic game. Rogue Legacy. Oh, this one's going to be painful. This one's going to be painful because I love Rogue Legacy. It has such a soft spot in my heart, but as a roguelite, it has not aged very well at all. I'm going to put Nova Drift in the... Oh, God. Nope, get back. I'm going to put Nova Drift in You Died. I genuinely don't like that game. I'm sorry. I don't like seeing it up here. I know, that just makes me mad. Rogue Legacy... It's... This is the toughest one. This is the toughest one. It deserves to be in great because it's such an amazing... It's such an amazing stamp in the roguelite genre. It really is. So many games on this selection of games are here because of Rogue Legacy and Spelunky and Isaac. Like, those three games are basically the reason these games exist on this list. But it didn't age well. Like, going back to Rogue Legacy is real rough. The combat's not fun. Very fun. I shouldn't say isn't fun, but it isn't very fun. New Game Plus is kind of boring. The castle exploration just doesn't have the same oomph it did when you first played it. And a lot of the magic is gone when you go back to your Hamlet and you already know what to upgrade because that's the best way to beat the game. Which I guess is just the roguelite formula, because you could say that about any of these games. Like in Isaac, you don't take a dumb item because you know it's bad. That's the process of learning. So maybe... it's gotta be up here. It's gotta be up here. I can't, in my right mind, knock Rogue Legacy for what it's done for the gaming... the roguelite scene. I can't. Like, it hasn't aged well, no. But its legacy is in its name and also in all the games we're selecting right now. Persistent unlocks. Rogue Legacy did that. Well, Rogue Legacy and Vanilla Isaac, anyway. The Streets of Rogue, below average. It's going to be above Children of Morta, though. Here's my thinking here. Streets of Rogue is a really good game, but I hate the game if I'm not playing with other people. I genuinely do not like this game if it's not multiplayer, and because of that, it's got to be in below average. However, it could be bumped up because it has online multiplayer, like most games don't nowadays. But Streets of Rogue, as a solo player primarily, its fun drops to like 5% if I'm playing solo. I don't know how you could have fun with that game solo. It's basically built to play with friends. And so I'm going to put that there, unfortunately. Alright, we're going to have back-to-back disappointments here. Get ready for that. Hope you guys are ready. Moonlighter, a game that I enjoyed for about an hour, and then realized that the dungeon crawling was very molassesy, slow, bad, and boring. And the only part of the game I liked was the store management, and that was only half of the game. I genuinely did not like the dungeon exploring. I genuinely did not like the combat. It was slow, it was clunky, it was weird. The animations were locked until you finished them. Art style and music were beyond amazing. The art style and music were fantastic. I just want a game that has store management and good dungeon crawling, which we already have in Reciteer. If you want Moonlighter, just go buy Reciteer. It's probably cheaper at this point. And way better. It's slightly more anime, but I guess if you're into that, it's cool. And I kinda am. Okay. Are you guys ready for this one? Are you ready for this one? Monolith. We have our first god tier. Monolith is absolutely amazing. It's a shmup meets Smash TV meets roguelite. It is such a good game. I know the devs pretty well. I have spent time on stream with them. They are amazing, and I'm not saying that it's in God tier because I know the devs, because I know several of these devs. I've talked with Cellar of Rogue Legacy. Obviously, I know the guy from Stream Immortality. I've talked to the guys at Risk Around. It's not because I know the devs. I'm just saying that may have some influence because they are really passionate about making this game the best it can be. And Ruins of the Past just came out, the new DLC for this game. I haven't touched it yet. I'm going to be touching it here on YouTube. Stay tuned for those videos because I'm so excited for it. It is currently my favorite roguelite outside of one of them on this list, which the astute of you probably already know which one that is. But it is currently my favorite roguelite that doesn't have a bias tied to it. Monolith is amazing. I just go play Monolith. I've gotten so many people to play this, just like I've gotten people to play Stramium, just like I've gotten people to play Downwell. Just go play Monolith, especially with the new DLC. Just buy both. Buy the DLC. It's so good. My god. Goner, great. Goner is above Risk of Rain 2. It's actually above Stramium, and it might be above It's not above Dicey. Not above Dicey. Goner is also really good. It's also another underrated game. Nobody plays Goner. Raw Fury made Goner, and it's such a good game. It's so weird. The art style and the atmosphere in the game is such a goofy, weird game. It's about collecting heads and picking up power-ups and jumping in giant tapeworms to transfer between levels. It's such a weird, unique, fun, trippy game. Just like Stramium. It's a very trippy game where you befriend death and there's a giant whale bro. What a great game. Goner's great. Go play Goner. We got to get through so many of these, and I'm trying to keep this under 40 minutes. Let's go. Noida. In its current state, Noida is definitely... Ooh, I don't know, man. I don't know, honestly. I want to put Noida in great, but I don't think Noida's better than Into the Breach. It's got to go below Into the Breach, because it's so... I might bump Into the Breach up to great. I have to. I have to, because I don't think Noida's great in its current state. It's got so much content right now, and it's so much fun. It's so weird to play around with the wands and just teleport and fly and do all that crap everywhere and light a giant lava pool on fire. Yes, I said light a lava pool on fire. I meant oil, but we're not talking about it anymore. Noida's so good, and it's exactly what it wants to be. It's a weird wizard wand adventure, and I just wish the game was a little shorter. I haven't completed a run yet. I haven't completed a run yet, but my longest run was still like an hour and 30 minutes. So, I wish it was a little shorter. I hate long roguelites that are run-based. I shouldn't say that just long roguelites in general, because, you know, Darkest Dungeon is long as shit. But, like, run-based roguelites. Like, no one would like an Isaac run if it was 3 hours long. This is Weedos don't have fun when it's at that point. It reaches the critical mass of time, and you're like, ugh. Crypt of the Necrodancer is great. It is great, and it's probably right below Darkest Dungeon. Crypt of the Necrodancer is a classic. It's sometimes slept on nowadays. It's like people forget Crypt of the Necrodancer exists because of all the other great games that have come out. But you forget that Crypt of the Necrodancer is still probably the best rhythm roguelike game that we have. Might be the only one we have, but it's definitely the best amongst that category. And for that alone, and the music, and Danny B, and the singing shopkeeper, and the amazing selection of items and weapons that are all viable in the game, the secrets, Family Jewels X alternate soundtrack, Crypt is just so good, man. Crypt of the Necrodancer is amazing. Cadence is... whoo! Anyway, let's save Spelunky for last. Teleglitch. I think Teleglitch might be right the most average game on the list because it's so good, but in short bursts. Teleglitch is one of the probably the oldest roguelites on this list, and I played it a lot back in the day before even YouTube. And it's still fun. It's still really fun. It's very creepy and weird, and the art style's kind of weird and off-putting. It's very shady and pixely and goofy. It looks almost like a freeware game on Game Jolt, except it's got more depth than that. Ridiculously hard. Maybe one of the hardest roguelites on this list as well. Having never won it, and I've been playing it for like 7 years. Very good. You know, my only complaint with it is maybe the fact that it's a little too inaccessible. Where you basically just hit a button, you jump in, and then you die, and then you Alt F4 and you walk away and play something better. So that's why it's going to be the average game of our list. It's good, but it's not great, you know? Isaac. And this is the full Isaac. We're not talking Rebirth, we're not talking Vanilla, we're talking Isaac as a whole. There's no separation here. It's Binding of Isaac Vanilla, Binding of Isaac Rebirth, Binding of Isaac Afterbirth, Binding of Isaac Afterbirth Plus, and then the upcoming Binding of Isaac Repentance, which I can't judge yet, and hopefully it's better than Afterbirth Plus, because Afterbirth Plus is the entire reason it's going to be below Darkest Dungeon. Afterbirth Plus, and then the clunky, weird, as much as I loved Vanilla, the clunky, weird, borderline sometimes unplayable version of Vanilla, which I still love. But Afterbirth and Afterbirth Plus, as good of content updates as they were, they kind of ruined the game. And it soured my taste for what was easily one of my favorite games of all time, which was Binding of Isaac Rebirth. Afterbirth made the game way too easy, and Afterbirth Plus made the game too goddamn boring. I'm just gonna be honest, the characters suck. The new bosses are awful, like horribly designed bosses. Like there's not a single Afterbirth Plus boss you can point to and say, that's good. No, they're all bad. The items that were added are garbage, like just utter shit. It saturated the item pool to the point where every run was just kind of like a dice roll of whether or not you'd be able to make it past the 4th floor, and if you could, it became too easy. It's just a disappointing situation Isaac is in right now for a game that I love so much, but I just don't want to play because it's kind of annoying to play it. And I give props to the people who still play it religiously every day. Northern Lion, you're a goddamn beast. Cobalt, you're a goddamn beast. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it, and that's why I quit Isaac like 6 different times, because it's just annoying to play at this point. It's just an annoying game to play at this point. I love it, and I'm going to be starting up a freaking Eden Streak video or series in the near future, probably in the next couple days from this video being uploaded, but it is just annoying. But Eden is going to shake it up because Eden's always fun. That's kind of how I counter the fact that Afterbirth Plus sucks. Yeah, it's going to be right below Darkest Dungeon. In the current state, I would rather play Darkest Dungeon and Monolith than Binding of Isaac. Nuclear Throne. I think Nuclear Throne's going to be right above Noida at the top of the above average, because I do love Nuclear Throne quite a bit. You're going to hear me say I love a lot, because I do really love a lot of these games on this list, but I do have to be somewhat somewhat critical on the issues they have, and my issue with Nuclear Throne is that A, it doesn't end, B, it's too fucking hard for me, and so I cannot get past that difficulty spike. And because of that, because this is my personal list, because of that, it has to get knocked down a little bit, because it's almost inaccessible for me. As much fun as I have with it, it's just right there. It's right there, right at the tippy toe to greatness. And I never feel like I want to go back to Nuclear Throne. Nuclear Throne might be the easiest one on here to quit for me, that I play relatively frequently. Not the games that I don't play often or haven't played very much. But of the games on here that I've played a lot of, Nuclear Throne is definitely the easiest one for me to put down and be like, yeah, I don't have to play that anymore. Just because it doesn't grab me as much as some of the other ones. It doesn't grab me as much as a Dicey or an Isaac or a Monolith or something like that. Alright, Gungeon, we have our second godlike game, and it's actually going to be the king of the godlikes right now, because Gungeon is absolutely one of the best roguelites that has ever been made. It is nearly perfect. It wasn't on launch, I'll be honest there. Up until Supply Drop, the game was kind of in a weird state of being too damn hard. But it was still beatable. It was just a pain in the ass, because there was no, like, they incentivized you to use your weapons, but there weren't any ammo drops, and then you had to pay for ammo, but they also want you to pay for unlocks and pay. It was in a weird state, and then Supply Drop fixed it, and then Enter the Gungeon, or Dungeons and Dragons. Gungeons and Dragons came out, and was actually kind of disappointing. Remember when everybody was excited for Dungeons and Dragons? We've been waiting for it, and then it finally came out, and it was kind of a little bit of a letdown. But then Farewell to Arms came out, and it just, like, sent off the game into this massive, amazing expansion that was just so good. And Enter the Gungeon is in currently the best state. And I'm so happy to see where the game is right now. It's such a good game. And it definitely deserves, at least for a little bit, to be the king of the god tier games. And by a little bit, I mean literally the shortest amount of time ever, because FTL takes it over, quite easily being my second favorite roguelite on this entire list. Definitely my second favorite all time. I mean, Monolith is definitely one of my favorites currently, just because it's new. It's the new hotness. It's been out for 2 years, but it's the new hotness. FTL's been out for 8 years? Shit, 8 years? And it's still good. FTL is going to remain the game that I will always tell people to play if they're interested in playing roguelites. I'm like, if you want to play a game that's a roguelite, you either play FTL or you play Rogue Legacy. Those are the two games that I would always send people to play if they're interested in the genre of games. FTL's just, it's so good. It's got the perfect amount of difficulty. The end battle is goddamn stressful. The unique combat. Subset games make such good games. For those that don't know, Enter the Breach and FTL made by the same company, and that's why they're both so unique from every other game on this list. They are so unique in how they approach their game design. What an amazing game. FTL deserves to be up there. It's probably not far ahead of Gungeon, maybe like this far ahead, but definitely kings it out a little bit. Slay the Spire. Slay the Spire is definitely a great game. I would put that above Crypt. I have a weird relationship with Slay the Spire, because I started out not liking it because it wasn't a proper deck builder, in my opinion, because I grew up playing card games, I grew up playing Magic the Gathering and stuff like that. So in my understanding, how I grew up playing deck builders, a deck builder is a game where you buy cards, and then you build a deck out of those cards, and then you go up against somebody else's deck that they built. That's what I think of when I think of a deck builder. But this took a new spin on deck building, and honestly, after playing it for... How long have I played Slay the Spire? How many hours I got in Slay the Spire? You guys can see all my games I have installed. Where's Slay the Spire? Where's my recent games? Recent games. Where's Slay the Spire? Slay the Spire. I've played 30 hours of Slay the Spire. And I'm comfortable putting it this high up, because I can see myself dumping a bunch more hours into it. Very good game. Very, very good game. I'm actually going to bump Darkest Dungeon into Godlike. I'm going to bump it into Godlike, because I feel uncomfortable having this many greats. Yeah, it's going to be up in Godlike. Flint Hook, Disappointment! I can't put it in Disappointment with those games, because it's actually a good game. It's going to be right below Street. It's going to be right below... It's going to be the top of the below average right now. I love Flint Hook. I really do. The art style, the music, the gameplay, the combat, everything in Flint Hook is so good, except for the fact that it is way too hard. It's unbalanced as hell. The environments are too hard to read. There's traps everywhere that are obscured by boxes and crates that you can't see, like literally cannot see, and it's not the player's fault if you take unwanted damage. The game is way too hard at the end of it. Like, some of the end challenges in that game are almost impossible to do. The design of the ending of the game was masochistic and unfair. It suffered from design issues, but it was still a good game. Void Bastards. From the 30 minutes I played of it, it is definitely an above-average game. I would put it... I'd put it probably right below Hades, probably above Hades for now, just because I haven't put enough time into either of these, so I can't really rank them justifiably, but I'm going to put it above Hades for right now, because I like the aesthetic of Void Bastards and the combat of Void Bastards a little bit more than I liked in Hades, but that might change with time I put into both of them more. 20XX is definitely a... From my rankings, it is a below-average game. I would put it probably right above Children of Morta. It's a Mega Man roguelite. It's very budget looking, and I hate to use that word, but it's true. It is a little budget looking, but it's still fun. It's still a good game. It's just not. It's you know, it's a 5 out of 10. It's definitely a good game that on sale you can pick up and have a good time. It's really good co-op, by the way. Really good co-op. If you have a co-op partner, this jumps up quite a bit. All right, here we go. Find your place at the top, Spelunky. Best game. Best game. Not even roguelite. Best game. It should have been a no-brainer coming into this video. Spelunky is my favorite game of all time. It is my favorite game. It is a perfect designed game. It may be the best designed game I've ever played. It might be the best designed game of all time, right up there with Minecraft, maybe. It's so good. Spelunky knows exactly what it is, and that's why it's so good, is it knows what it is. It has no issue with identity. It knows where it is. It knows what it needs from you to do. Everything about it is just absolutely knocked out of the park. Derek, you is a wonderful human being. What a good dev. He has not made very many bad games, and I cannot wait for Spelunky 2. And that's really all I gotta say about Spelunky, because there's really nothing you gotta say about it. It's just kind of respected as the top. And if you don't have it at your top, there's something wrong with you. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this ranking video on tiermaker.com/create/roguelite/235917. Penta Hybrid ranks recent memory roguelites and roguelikes. What did you think of my rankings? What did I get wrong according to you? Let me know your rankings down below. If you want to get this list yourselves, I will post the link to the roguelite tier maker, and you can do it yourself and post it in the comments below. Be sure to let me know what you think of it. Give me your thoughts and feelings, and until the next time on the YouTubes, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you later.